Do you ever wonder if homeschool is a good choice for you? Comment below with your questions, concerns, or ask about setting up a time to discuss how to start your homeschool journey.
Well, I'm going to skip ahead to one of the questions I was going to touch on later, but I kind of want to get to it now because you were talking about the metacognition and how in K-12, you're saying we should be, even by middle school, like helping students to understand how they learn. And you talked a little bit about technology. How has technology made learning more customized? Because I think now, like with people, because of technology, they can specialize and because of more emphasis on metacognition, they know how they learn, they know their style, and there's more choices within. And I'm looking more at like post secondary, but even now with secondary, there's just seems like there's more choices available. But along with that, with the technology, when we get back to the simulation, like you actually said, there were times when you were like, no, let's pull away from the screens. Like, let's think about this. And it's so prolific, like that, all the information. I do it too. Like my phone, I've got my calculator, my Siri, my to-do list, like just everything's right there and it's convenient. But then I do wonder, like, what are we losing from the humanization of it, like with so much being on screen. So if you would just touch on how has technology made education more customized, but then maybe what are some of the drawbacks from such an emphasis on technology?
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, if you want to get, say, so to speak, use a scientific approach to it, is there's no perfect. Okay, so when you go out there, there's always slippage. There's somebody, usually in any, let's just say, classroom or grade level or district or whatever it is, you're not going to reach. And how much time and effort are you going to go to the fringe and help those students out there is an economics question for most places. But in technology, well, I think it makes life interesting if it's useful. If it's useful, it makes life interesting. And there's some phases that have gone through. I think I even saw a phase, even for teaching for 7 years, I saw a difference in students. And so what we're dealing with now, like as of a few years ago, the students that, let's say, pop out of college, they differentiate that group of learners in that from the time that they were basically aware of 4 or 5 years old, they had access to stable smartphone platforms. A lot of parents would just hand their smartphone to a child to distract or entertain them or whatnot. It was the first group of students that came through that never knew flip phones or no phones or that era. So they are really, really attached, and you have to stop and think about that. Don't take it that at surface level. You have to think about what do they say, the nuances of that means. What are these students? What does technology mean to them? And it's classic teaching. Traditional teaching is very difficult because they have the phones there. They're very distracted. You can't really say no. One of the districts near where I live, there was a headline just recently, and they have forbidden at the lower levels no cell phones in the classroom or something. I don't know if they leave them on a board there, they pick them up afterwards or whatever. But it's gotten to that point, and I'm not sure. I don't know if usually when you try to what do you say, like, not outlaw, but try to shut something down like
Prohibit,
that,
yeah.
it's usually going the wrong direction. It means that there's some traditional people it's not working well with, and as the instructor level, but turn it into what the students really use. Okay, so what I would have done with my courses going forward is make more during class polling where you could use an app on the phone and go, so what do you think
Hmm.
about this problem?
Right.
Just with a couple of features in your course like that isn't a small amount of work. I mean, to make it work, you have to go to your IT group, say, I want to start using this in my classroom, and they'll help you. We had a really wonderful IT group. They were super positive. They had more ideas. They were ready to go than professors usually were asking for. It is work. Some professors like to get a set and forget course set up so that they have other things to do.
Hmm.
I was always tearing it up almost every day and trying to make it better and whatnot. But for technology like that, I found that really livens up even meetings that I've been to where they'll do a poll and they say, here, go to this app, and during a conference, you'll start polling. I found like that is a good thing. They care about what they're coming down to me, they're coming over to me like in a conference. They're like, okay, then it was fun. It's fun to see amongst those that you're looking around, like how did they all punch in on that one. And you can't let it age, though. You can't wear it out. You can't use it every class and do everything by one technology feature like that, or else it then becomes, oh, okay, ho-hum. But, so that's an example of where in a classroom you can use technology to personalize it, where it matters. I think that's what is important, is that the students feel like they matter individually. I don't think any of my students ever felt, I was always on the positive side of that. I always spent all the time in the world with my students, if they even had a simple question or a comment or a thought or whatever it might be. And not all instructors are like that. So you do have that gamut of what their an instructor's perspective of what they're going to do is. And there's a lot of status, as we well know, a lot of just static, sitting, non-progressive or non-progressing instruction going on in education, all different levels and whatnot. But another way for me, though, the thing that you could do with simulation for, making it, personalizing it, and customizing it, and reaching to the student, that I could do is you could create vignettes. Like in my business simulations, they were long term. The student had, like, it was during many weeks or months even that they would be doing these simulations. It wasn't a one-off, here in this class, let's do this, or a homework assignment or something like that. It was a project. And I was going to bring up when you were mentioning it before. Yeah, these are called serious simulations. Like, there's a proper name for that. There's actually conferences on serious simulation, rather than gaming and gamification. But gamification, again, is a thing that the outcome that I see from it is personal accomplishment the students will have if they start using, a lot of times you call them like passports. If they've accomplished something, they get a little part of their passport stamped. Our school had something called first year experience. Most colleges have this now. It's like a first year experience. They keep in touch with students much more by having events, special courses, and other things. And as they go there, they have to get a minimum number of stamps in their passport, basically. I think that's what they called it. That kind of thing. So, and that was all digital. So those are some ways that technology keeps it humanized. And that's what you really have to look for. Is there are some programs when students willfully give that up. And I'll give an example. And I mean, when you get to some hard things like very technical things like accounting or engineering or something like that, there's not a lot of room for feels in it. I mean, there is and there isn't. I mean, you have to learn the basics. You have to learn the remembering part of it and the concepts there. But at the end of the day, there's usually an equal sign and a number that has to be accurate at the end of a lot of that.
Right.
It's a little bit different, but then again, I mean, there's still room at a different level for humanizing that. That's why so many accounting students drop out, or engineering students drop out. They want to look at it as a more personable livelihood when they get out of college. They want to do that. And I consider myself as an engineer more personable than a diehard engineer, which you need. And they couldn't care, many of them couldn't care less about the personalization. They are very, internally motivated, and their accomplishments is their life. They wear that almost as a badge. It's their identity, is I conquered this topic, rather than interpersonal. Sometimes that's not so great. I think some engineers give it a reputation, or accountants give it a reputation of being so dry. Some people's personalities are that way. That's that's where they go. So I don't know. Here's where it ties in with the meta learning, is because the simulation, they have to realize what's missing from it. They have to assume, somewhat of what you were asking is, where do we go with that in the market? Okay, well, it's education. Who gets to appreciate the benefits of that other than the learner? But the meta learning is to realize what is the gap with this in doing this. What is the difference of say going and actually doing something, and simulation goes everywhere from a thought experiment to maybe a card simulation, or a board. I don't want to call it game, but a board simulation or something like that. I mean, Monopoly is probably a simulation at some low level. You learn management of money and competition for sure. How many Monopoly games end up in fights, right? But as kids, but, but the meta learning about the simulation is really important. Okay, what am I not getting here? And that's what I would say to them. Usually, I wanted them to do just well enough on it. I say, and I would literally go like this in class: "Go do it now." And I kept reminding them. I go, "This is all fun and games, and we can do that. You can have fun accomplishing, but that moment." And that's what my research is in, is transformative experiences. And that would be a minor transformative experience, is like, oh, I'm so glad I got through this simulation. Okay, but why is it not as good as going and doing it? Or what's the gap there? What could you go walk, if you walk in a factory or a control room for a big financial company that we had, what questions do you have right now? What would you have to know to walk onto that floor? The simulation doesn't get you all the way there.
Right.
So
Yeah. And the motivation, is different
that's
for the
that's
grade. And like you said, you're paying, so it's like, okay, I need to, and then it's like, I need to get paid instead of
Well,
I am paying.
I had some students paying their college. They were entrepreneurial, and they
Yeah.
would challenge me in class, and of course they were always wrong. But anyway, they would challenge me in class with real questions, and I loved it. I would take it on. Sometimes they came out as snide remarks, about that's not the way it's done. Like, okay, you teach us what, how does that go? And it puts them on that. It really makes a nice classroom that way. I love when somebody objects or challenges, because you say, okay, where are you coming from? And I would go with it. I go,
or
yeah,
defend
you're
that,
probably absolutely right on that. And students are like, really? The other students are looking like, really? That can go on in here?
Do you ever wonder if homeschool is a good choice for you? Comment below with your questions, concerns, or ask about setting up a time to discuss how to start your homeschool journey.